Chris Hedges wrote in a share post about those who are speaking out and the silence of those who are not. And I wanted to read this kind of key part of it, which is really important about those who are not speaking out, especially those in some positions of power or positions of academia, etc. He says Robert J. Lifton, in his book, The Nazi Doctors, Medical Killing and the Psychology of Genocide, writes that genocidal projects require the active participation of educated professionals, physicians, scientists, engineers, military leaders, lawyers, clergy, university professors, and other teachers who combine to create not only the technology of genocide, but much of its ideological rationale, moral climate, and organizational process. And this is so important. People don't really talk that much about this, about the silence right now of so many high-level academics, so many doctors and lawyers, those who are really, the upper management of society, even if they're not in the ruling elite. Like, you don't expect our members of Congress to really be speaking out because we understand what they are. Mostly sociopaths funded entirely by corporate America, which is allied entirely with corporate Israel and the Israeli government. So you don't expect them to speak out. Whereas you would think after 4 months of just sheer in-your-face, full frontal, gory, detailed genocide, you would start to expect the academics across the nation and the doctors and the lawyers and those people in the upper management of society. Chris Hedges continues, a group of 100 Israeli doctors in November 2023 defended the bombing of hospitals in Gaza, claiming they were used as Hamas command centers, a charge Israel has been unable to verify. These are doctors defending bombing hospitals. What Chris doesn't mention, which I again mention a lot, is that even if there were a Hamas command center, quote unquote, even if it looked like the goddamn Borg underneath these hospitals, even if it looked like the deck of the Starship Enterprise, even if you still can't bomb an entire hospital and kill so many innocent people because you say there's a command center underneath. But on top of that, Israel's failed to provide any proof of that. To continue from the article, the deans of U.S. medical schools and leading medical organizations, especially the American Medical Association, AMA, have joined the ranks of universities, law schools, churches, and the media to turn their backs on Palestinians. The AMA shut down a debate on a ceasefire resolution among its members and has called for medical neutrality, although it abandoned medical neutrality to denounce Russia's invasion of Ukraine. They're not calling for medical neutrality on Ukraine, on the U.S. proxy war in Ukraine, but they're calling for medical neutrality when it comes to straight up, very clear, by the book genocide. Once again, I know I mentioned it a lot. If you look up the definition of genocide, you can even look it up on the Holocaust Memorial Fund's website. You will tick off every single part of the definition of genocide. Hedges says there is a cost to denouncing this genocide, a cost they do not intend to pay. They fear being attacked. They fear destroying their careers. They fear losing funding. They fear a loss of status. They fear persecution. They fear social isolation. This fear makes them complicit, he says. And I add, it also makes them goddamn cowards. All right. It's just sheer cowardice. I have tanked most of my comedy career in order to speak out about things like this. And these people who won't, even many of them who have far more secure careers and things like tenure at universities, they just won't do it. And it's true. They will be attacked. The universities may come after them. The medical associations may come after them. But there becomes a point when you're witnessing genocide on your televisions and your computers. There comes a point where you just go, bag it, got to do it. Hedges says, and what of those who do speak out? They are branded as anti-Semites and supporters of terrorism. George Washington University clinical psychology professor Laura Sheehy was pushed out of her job. The former head of Human Rights Watch, Kenneth Roth, was denied a fellowship at Harvard's Carr Center for Human Rights Policy because of his alleged anti-Israel bias, unquote. San Francisco professor Rabab al-Buhadi was sued for supporting Palestinian rights. Shad Abu Salama was suspended from Sheffield Hallam University in the UK after a vicious smear campaign, although the institution later settled her discrimination claim against it. Professor Jasper Puar at Rutgers University is an ongoing target for the Israel lobby and endures constant harassment. Medical students and faculty in Canada face suspension or expulsion if they publicly criticize Israel. And if you want to throw one more on there, Chris's friend and my, I'll call him a friend, Cornel West, he did not receive tenure at Harvard University because despite being hugely popular, hugely well-known, hugely successful in academia, he did not receive tenure, and almost definitely, or I think it's pretty clear, because he was speaking up for Palestinian rights and saying Palestine should be free. So yeah, it is just sheer cowardice from these academics, from these doctors, from these lawyers, from the people at the tops of our society in certain aspects, certain regards. I realize you don't call every lawyer the top of your society, but you know what I'm saying.